What's the most blatant way you've been hit on in public? Story 1. A girl shouted from her car window that she wanted to sit on my face. It was a neighborhood street during the day and there were kids around. We've been married for 20 years. Kidding about the last part. Never saw her again. Story 2. I was at a happy hour and standing at the bar to get another drink. There was music playing, and this short girl just squeezed in between me and the bar and just pushed her against me before leaning back and asking me what I wanted to drink. Story 3. I'm in a DIY shop looking for a new light for my bedroom. The girl helping me out is smiling and blushing, telling me about what university she's going, what course she's studying, and what kind of music she likes. I'm like, okay, can you find me the light I'm looking for? I'm sure my mum was dying on the inside several times over as she watched all this go right over my head, and it was only on the way home in her car she says, "You know she was trying to flirt with you?" Welp. Story 4. At the bar with my friends. A rather inebriated lady appeared from nowhere to wrap herself around my arm and loudly whisper, "Want to carry me home in these?" It was like a flirty jump scare. Story 5. I didn't notice it at all. My girlfriend looked at me and asked if I noticed her flirting with me, and I didn't. In my defense, we were at Disney World in Star Wars Land, so I was distracted. Story 6. Back in my younger and slightly skinnier years, I was drinking with some friends, and young woman sat right down beside me, whispered in my ear, "I'm going home with you tonight," then proceeded to stay with me and my friends for the remainder of the evening. She did in fact go home with me that night, turned into a 15-month relationship. But that's whole different story. Edit 1. I've been asked to tell the rest of the story, so here it goes. For the purposes of anonymity, you'll call my ex Jane. So, as you read in part 1, Jane came home with me that night. It was definitely the wildest night I had ever had, up until that point. So I was more than willing to ask her to stay another night, which she did. 2 nights turned into 3, then she started coming over on a rather regular basis. After about 2 months or so of us getting together, Jane looked at me one evening and said, "Are we in a relationship?" I slowly chewed the O. Henry bar in my mouth, probably the start of me getting not so skinny, and replied, "I think we are." And that was the beginning of an intense relationship that was never boring and always respectful, even when we at each other's throats. After just over a year together, Jane got a remarkable job offer in the US, something she just couldn't turn down. We tried the long-distance thing for a few months, then realized that it just wasn't economically feasible or emotionally practical. So we mutually agreed to go our separate ways. She's definitely one of those people who made an impact in my life. We stayed in semi-regular contact for a while, but that too eventually ended. Somewhere there's a very, very happy guy in a kick relationship. Well, that's my story. Story 7. Ran into some friends in a bar one night, and I was introduced to a guy's cousin and his girlfriend. 20 minutes later, the girlfriend stuffs a cocktail napkin into my shirt pocket and whispers, "Go read what it says." I went to the bathroom to take a leak, pulled the napkin out of my pocket, and it said, "Take me home." And me. Story 8. Back in the late 90s in Providence, RI, my white bread, country boy college freshman self was standing outside a pizza place waiting for my roommate and his girl to finish paying for their after-the-club snack. This was before cell phones, so I was just sort of staring off into space, minding my own business. A dude stopped his car, opened his window, and asked me for directions to a well-known bar. I figured he was from out of town. After I gave him directions, this happened. Him, "Hey, thanks, man. By the way, I hope you don't mind me asking, but what sort of underwear do you wear?" Me, shocked into dumbness. Tidy whities?" Him, so you're a big guy? Need that extra support?" Me, still blue-screened. Yes? Him? "You need a ride anywhere, big man?" Me, I'm walking. I walk a lot. To girls' houses. I like girls. Him chuckles. "Maybe another time." My roommate and his girl come outside in time to hear me say I like girls and the dude laugh and drive off. He asked me what happened and I repeated the conversation. For the rest of the trimester, all my friends teased me about my underwear and tell me to be careful of strangers in cars. Anytime I needed a ride somewhere, they'd say, "Need a ride, big man?" Good times. Story 9. Was walking down the sidewalk and this gay guy gave me a "Honey, how about you and me go somewhere?" And I told him that I appreciated the offer but will have to pass today, but wished him luck in finding an available participant. Drunk girl saw me walk back from the bathroom at a sports bar, leaned out of her booth, grabbed my arm and said, "I really want you two on my." Story 10. Was at a bar one night. She grabbed me and introduced me to her friends as her boyfriend, and I was definitely taking her home with me. We dated for a year. Story 11. I was at a bar waiting in line for a drink. A gay woman came up to me and said verbatim, "I just wanted to say, I'm gay, but if I wasn't, I would jump your bones right now." Then she bought me a drink. Been hit on by gay men before, but no a gay woman. Story 12. Back in the 80s, I was walking down the street by myself and some huge dude came out of nowhere and went on this long monologue about how he trains to be the strongest person and how expensive it is. Then he beat my and stole all of my money. Story 13. Went to a house party. Walk in the door, 5 seconds in, and some chick sitting on a couch with her friends looked at me, pointed, and loudly declared, EMU tonight. She was right. Story 14. At a Fear Factory gig in London with a female friend. Some random girl was passing through the crowd. She basically pushed herself and her up against me, even though there was plenty of space around me, smiled and kept going. To which my friend burst out laughing, saying I was just assaulted. Story 15. I don't remember all the details because I'd been drinking, but I do know that she initiated the interaction because I'm very shy and polite and would never make a pass at a strange woman at a bar. All I remember was her encouraging me to motorboat her chest, which I happily obliged. I then called over to my friends and yelled, "Hey guys, look what I can do," and then proceeded to motorboat her for the audience. Everyone in the bar cheered. True story. Story 16. Was on a cruise with my family. Wife and my teen daughter had gone on the shore excursion. I stayed on board, as did my other teen son, who was off playing video games. After I finished my work call, I headed to a bar, sat down at the bar 2 seats away from a pretty attractive woman. She struck up a conversation. After about 15 minutes, she said, "I am on this ship celebrating my divorce. You are funny and smart, and I find that attractive. I haven't been with someone in almost 2 years. Do you want to come back to my cabin with me?" I showed her my wedding ring and said, "That is a very tempting offer, but I couldn't live with myself." She got up to leave and said something like, "I wish my ex was half the man you are." Story 17. I was out shopping one day at a grocery store, and this man approaches me smiling, trying to take my trolley from me. He then proceeds to tell me in very broken English that he will assist me in my shopping. I politely told him, "No thank you." He looks very sad, but he went away. A little while later, I see him filming me. It was gross, disturbing, and it made me feel so uncomfortable. Story 18. I was sitting in a bar. A woman came up to me and put her hands on my chest and said, "Really nice sweater." She planted a big kiss on me. We had a few drinks and we went back to my place. Story 19. I was probably 24M at the time. Used to push carts at a grocery store. One day I was working and was pushing a huge line into the cart garage. This girl, 18 to 21, approached me with her cart, and when I turned around, she said, "I know this is random, but my friend thinks you have a really nice orso and was wondering if she could get your number." I politely turned it down and told her I was with someone. A few moments later, her and the friend drove by to leave, and the friend yelled out the open window, "You do have a nice. Have a good day, honey." Story 20. An older gentleman at the bar asked if he could eat my unprompted. He wasn't quiet about it. He took no for an answer and didn't get pushy or rude. He shrugged and laughed. What a guy. So I think we'll keep the gentleman label there for him. Story 21. I don't know what that's like. Lil ha 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 had a 90-year-old lady hooked up to oxygen tank and tell me I would you, but wouldn't take you for coffee. Whatever that means, I wish I had a fire response about me possibly killing her if this happened. But I was kind of thrown off. Story 22. A zanned-up, middle-aged woman once told me to protect my beautiful lips as I was applying lip balm at the airport. Maybe she wasn't hitting on me, though. Weird old, either way. Story 23. Probably one of the many times I've been harassed, assaulted by older women, attempting to or successfully groping me through my pants, or the lewd comments about my bulge. Story 24. Was in school at the time, but a girl complimented me in class like 15 times just on random things about my appearance. She liked my shirt, my shoes, my pants, my hair, my freckles, my smile, my eyes, my eyelashes, my lips, my backpack, my nose, my hands, my forearms, how I was the perfect height. She said she liked the tired look I had, and the way I stared into space. It all happened separately from one another throughout an hour-and-a-half long class. I didn't offer a single compliment back, I just said thank you every time and not once did even consider that she could be into me. Story 25. I was in the passenger seat of my roommate's car when we were driving off campus and 3 girls go by and one yells, "You're hot, let's." And I was like, I should get out of the car, but had smoked enough weed to kill an elephant, so I had zero confidence. Story 26. I was at a bar with my friend and his girlfriend. We were there for a Herbie Hancock tribute band. We wanted to play pool until the show started, but every table was full. I noticed one table had a pretty woman playing by herself, so I asked if we could join, and she said yes. Within 10 minutes, she looked me in my eyes and said, I'd you. I don't remember the context because at the time I was basically first discovering my self-confidence, and hearing a woman say that to me was crazy. I had never even considered that some women might actually be looking at me that way. Blew my mind. There's more to the story for that night, but we ended up dating for 6 years and we have a son we love very much. Story 27. I was at a party once around 10 years ago. House music party. It was around 3 a.m. and one chick comes up to me and goes, "You look really cute with your BF." This she was talking about was a mate of mine and I let her know. She then goes, "Ah, good then. Lucky me." She kissed me and gave me her number. I wrote her the next day and proceeded to date for around a year. Had a girl come up to me at my job and grab my beard and say she loved it. I was hella awkward and just said thanks, and she stood there for what felt like an eternity. Story 28. Senior year in HSID, gained a little weight and stopped regularly wearing my class ring. Lost the weight over the summer, then began wearing it again in college. As a drummer, I wasn't quite used to wearing it while play again yet, So I was jamming with a potential new band and my friend was sitting near me enjoying our playing. I handed her my ring to hold onto until we were finished playing. I glanced over during the next song and she'd put it on a chain around her neck. I asked her if that was a hint, and she gave me those eyes and answered, it could be. Story 29. I was in the grocery store a few weeks back, looking at a bunch of single-serving frozen meals, and a nice-looking middle-aged woman behind me said that she'd be happy to show me how to cook that for dinner. I was impressed with how bold she was. My wife was down the aisle and watched it happen too. She still calls me. Story 30. Had a girl give me her number. When I looked at it later, I could see she likely didn't realize it was on the back of a receipt for tampons. In Dublin, Ireland, my first day, first pub, and within the first 5 minutes, I had a girl just start making out with me and grabbing my stuff down there. Another time back in USA, I was standing in a line in a club to get through to another part, and had a girl just come up behind my back, hook her arms around me and just press all of her body and head into my back and just stayed there. I used to like dancing and would always get in the cage or lifted area over the dance floor. I did so as most of the time. Some girl or two would work their way up there to me and just start dancing and grinding. I've got a lot of these. Probably missing some better ones. Been a long time since a woman hit on me though. Oh, another time I got a bit too drunk at a party and went to sleep in a spare bedroom. She hit on me by waking me up about an hour later and imitating. Story 31. I was out to dinner with Goldberry and when the lady brought our drinks over, she laid down a napkin with her number on it and said, you should call me. We had a good laugh about the fact that she was a few millennia too young for me. Story 32. I am a straight man. I went to a gay bar with a gay couple I'm good friends with to watch a drag show. Standing at the urinal with two gentlemen waiting behind me, one man said, look at his. The other replied, my tongue is hard. I was hit on several other times that evening by some very nice gents, two of whom I've become friends with. One even attended my wedding 28 years ago. I learned that if I ever need an ego boost, I should go to a gay bar. Story 33. I was at work assisting a customer. I stepped away, and when I came back, she had the top few buttons of her shirt unbuttoned, which previously wasn't, exposing her cleavage and some of her bra. I made a comment about like, hey, your shirt came unbuttoned, and she buttoned it back up. I stepped away again, and again came back and her shirt was unbuttoned again. She then handed me her phone number with a note that said something like, if you want to see more, call me. Story 34. I've been hit on a couple times. Once I thought this is it. On Fridays, I'd stop after work at this bar that had great food. I'd always sit at the bar and establish my little campsite. Newspaper, phone, glasses, etc. The bar was very packed and a very good-looking young lady taps me on the shoulder and asks if anyone's sitting next to me. I say no, and hurriedly move my stuff to the other side. As I turn around ready to converse, she's walking away with the bar stool. Oh well. Story 35. Drunk guy at bar. Are you with this loser? Crooks his finger, starts to walk away. Follow me. I did not follow him off that dance floor, and my husband of many years and we laughed and laughed and laughed. Story 36. I was a bartender a long time ago. I am a very secure dude with my sexuality, but I was also a theater kid. So oftentimes people would take my over-the-topness as flamboyance, and people often suspected me of being gay. Guy came in and sat at the bar during a dead time and was waiting for someone. I naturally struck up conversation with them and talked a bunch about craft beer until their guest arrived and they grabbed a table. After shift change, I got off and sat down at the bar to have a few drinks with the rest of the day shift. This guy came back and handed me his number in front of all my coworkers. One of the girls I work with tried to make some kind of joke at my expense, and all I could say was, I don't care. Someone wants to me. How many numbers did you get today? Story 37. Hey, want a man speaking in a hushed yet raised voice shouted from a car passing me on Thames Street in Newport, Rhode Island. It was likely after the bar closed, as I, then just 21 years old, was walking home from a night out. Summer of 1996, drunk girl at a bar slammed her phone down, turned to me and said, my boyfriend just broke up with a text. What are we going to do about that? I was just at the right place at the right time. Story 38. Standing in line at a coffee shop and the woman behind me says something out loud to which I reply to. We make chit-chat for a bit, and then she's like, you know what, and writes down and hands me her number. I'm a guy, so this is obviously going to stick with me for the rest of my life. Story 39. Oh, I've been waiting for this one. When you're a flight attendant for Delta, you have the option of wearing pink uniform pieces for the month of October for breast cancer awareness. Men go absolutely apeshit for the pink dresses. I don't know what it is about that shade of Pepto that's so universally flattering, but it is. I'd get comments from sweet old men, snaps from the gays, free coffees from the guys at Caribou, and the weirdest I've ever heard come out of a man's mouth. I'm standing at the boarding door, and boarding is going as slowly as it usually does on an oversold flight to Key West in the middle of June. The line pauses, and a guy in his 20s, so my age at the time, and I are just chatting. He asks what the pink is for, gesturing at my coworker who was setting up the galley next to me wearing a pink tie, and me in my pink dress. because of course it was the pink dress. I told him it was for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and he chucked and said, well, if you need an exam, I'm in seat 32B. The captain, who was in the flight deck literally right behind me, heard him, and he never actually made it to seat 32B. Story 40. On a date, we were having dinner in a beautiful restaurant at the marina. They had live music with a singer and a three-piece band. The singer proceeded to sing all of the love songs to me. We were sitting right up front. I pretended it wasn't happening, lol. So awkward. My date was so mad, lol. Story 41. I don't consider guys yelling Maya's flirting. So I'd say an older guy striking up a conversation and very directly and plainly complimenting my looks and saying he would consider himself lucky if I were interested in him. Very much leaving it open to me to pick up the hook if I was interested. I wasn't, but I appreciated the way he engaged, leaving the door open without trying to directly invite me inside. No insisting I either come in or close the door. No attempt to guilt or coerce me. Much more enjoyable than trying to navigate saying no to a pushy guy. Made me actually contemplate saying yes for a second. Story 42. A guy came up to me at work and complimented my shoes. They were old and raggedy, so I knew he just needed something to get the conversation going. A little awkward, but he was cute. Story 43. I was stopping by Walmart after work and getting a dog bone for my aunt's German Shepherd. Walmart was really busy and I was tired and just wanted to be quick. Some random guy comes up to me and says, "That's a big bone. Must have a big dog." I just laughed a little and said yeah. He asked for my number despite me having a ring on, and I told him that I'm married. He ignored what I said and asked to see me and to set a date. I repeated that I was married and walked away. I was in the other aisle at this point and he shouts, "Don't have to be suchy about it." Like I said, Walmart was busy. Everyone stared. Story 44. I had some random gal sit next to me at a bar. We chatted for a few minutes and she flat out said, "Let's leave and go. I've had my share of random hookups, but I am used to at least having to ask first, lol. But, being the gentleman that I am, I obliged her. Story 45. Are you working this weekend? I was a college student in London. I was wearing a black wool skirt below my knees, white long-sleeve satin blouse buttoned up, standard low black barely dress shoes, and a black trench coat. I was on my way to the symphony with other students. Hooker in Vegas. Story 46. I was at an after-party for an event. This lady was laughing at my jokes and touching my arms. I'm not that funny. I was married at the time. I left. Story 47. Guy came up to me waiting at the bus stop, told me he thought I was attractive, had some small talk, exchanged Instagram. We exchanged some texts on there, but he really wasn't saying much fought actual conversation. I lost interest but would respond to be nice when he suggested we should do something sometime. I told him I really wasn't feeling any vibe, and he decided to respond with, "What? I haven't made your wet yet?" "No sir, you haven't. I've never been drier." There was literally not any flirting before that comment. Story 48. Was standing beside Starbucks waiting for the bus. Had my hair in pigtails because I was feeling fun that morning. Guy walks up to me and says, unprompted, "Nice pigtails. Wanna F?" Story 49. I was making out with my wife at a bar one time, and a guy came up and said, "Are you going to dance with me or just make out with this guy all night?" Pure legend. Story 50. I was putting gas in my car and randomly locked eyes with a guy in his car, leaving the gas pump across from where I was parked. He made a U-turn, parked his car, and jumped out. He waved and said, "Hi, I'm Matt and you're gorgeous. Can I get your number?" Story 51. Won a date with girlfriend at the time, sitting outdoors at an ice cream shop. A group of gay men walking along the sidewalk passed by and one turned back and looked at me, interrupted the conversation and asked if the carpet matches the drapes. He wants to steam me up and down. Was absolutely serious. The date I was with cracked the up. I was in total shock and embarrassed. Ended up marrying the girl I was on the date with. Story 52. Zombie me, walking to university class at 7:15 a.m. Dude, at least 20 years older than me, walks up to me and says, "I watched you from there. You look nice. Do you want to go for a coffee with me?" I initially thought he was a homeless person wanted some money. Unsurprisingly, I declined. Story 53. Girl pulled up beside me in the passenger seat giggling and gave me her name number on a piece of paper. First time it has happened in my life. I contacted her, took her to a movie, went back to her place, and she gave me oral. I met up with a few more times. She ghosted me. I threw away her number. She wasn't that attractive anyway. I shrugged my shoulders. Life goes on. Story 54. Him? Yo, are you gay? Me no. I actually have a girlfriend. H, can I at least get your number? M, I don't usually give that out to people. H, can I at least get your socials? M, I'm not really active anywhere except Facebook. Can I at least get your address? M, just go to your mom's house, you'll find me. Had to hit him with the "your mom" to get him to back off, lol. We had gone to school together, but I only ever talked to him like 3 times and didn't even know his name. Oh, this also happened at Walmart while I was looking at Mother's Day cards lol. He was also with a group of his friends. Still can't tell if he was serious or not, but he very much came across as if he was. Story 55. I get catcalled by gay dudes regularly because I live in Chelsea, Manhattan. Literally yesterday, a guy asked me where the gay bars were because I was biking shirtless and in short shorts. And I'm straight, but the confidence boost was unreal. Story 56. I was holding my 8-month daughter at a Starbucks, getting some coffee, and she started staring bullets at someone behind me. She has white blonde hair and bright blue eyes. Needless to say, she looks very intense when she wants to. From behind me, I start hearing these young women go, "Oh, so cute," and such. I look behind me and there's 4 college students right behind us that are oohing and eyeing at her. I look at my daughter and cutely go, "Wanna say hi? And did you make some new friends?" One of the girls goes, "Oh my god, I love her cheeks." My daughter had very pronounced cheeks when she was a baby. And I go, "Yeah. We thought she'd grow into them, but they've kind of grown with her." There was one girl who was very slightly overweight, twirling her hair, who gave me kind of a smoky glance, and she went, yeah, so did mine. I laughed it off, thinking it was a joke. It wasn't until I got my drink and was back in the parking lot that I realized. Story 57. I went to a rave one time, and there was a guy there with a sign that said, "Nice bro." He was also East Indian, wearing a white robe and turban, with dynamite made out of red cardboard paper strapped to his chest. As far as I know, I've never been hit on in public. I'm famous for missing social cues, though, so if I was, it never occurred to me. Story 58. Just before takeoff, an airline attendant in her 20s touched my shoulder, leaned over, gave me a smile, and said, "I just have to tell you, you are very, very handsome." I was 17 and sitting next to my mom at the time. Story 59. Guy who owned the deli and pizza stall in our local market. As he handed me my change, just casually told me I was horny. I was only 22 at the time and went as red as a berry. I remember mumbling thanks for my change and swiftly walked off. He was handsome and I felt a strange mix of flattered and terrified. If only it would have occurred when I was a bit braver, I'd have gone there. All the olives you can eat, right? Story 60. Left my wife sitting at the bar, told her I was going to the bathroom. Passed by 3 women walking together going the other way. The young black lady in the middle looked me up and down and was smiling so big I had to grin back. Then I went pee and sat down next to my wife. Story 61. I was just at Walmart like last week, and some drunkie starts yelling at me while I'm standing in the snack aisle covered in dirty baggy clothes after coming straight from a barn. He said I was pretty and asked if I had a boyfriend, and I was like, "Yeah, sorry." Then he goes, "Don't be sorry, there's plenty of fish in the sea," and goes whistling off. I wish all interactions like this ended so well, lol. Story 62. I'm a guy, so I rarely get hit on. But once I was walking around with my friends, and this girl came up to me. She asked me if I am gay. Like, no hellos, nothing. "Are you gay?" I'm like, "No." And she said, "Okay, good. Let me get your number." Story 63. Walking out of a store when I was 15 or so, and 2 girls just walked up to me, grabbed my arm as I was walking, and struck up a conversation, one on each side. Told me they loved my outfit and called me cute. Never saw them again. Should have asked for numbers or something, but stupidly didn't. I assume it was probably a dare. You both go flirt with that guy and I'll give you $20, but it was still a massive confidence boost for me at the time and not an unwelcome gesture, even though I recognized it being just done on a dare as a possibility then too. Story 64. Not me, but my then boyfriend. He and I were talking about what to buy next in the grocery store. We were talking face to face around 1 away from each other when a very pretty young woman pushed in between us, with her back to me. She was literally pushed up against me and handed her phone number, telling him to call her. To his credit, he took her by her shoulders, turned her around hard and said, "See this woman? The one you are totally disrespecting? She's my girlfriend. Here's your number." Handed it back crumpled up. "I have no interest at all in you. Don't do like this." This happened years ago, but I still remember it. At the university, I was at a bar with a friend. My friend got up to use the toilet. A girl walks up. "Hi there, is this chair taken?" "Well, my friend just went to the..." She sits down. "Thanks," and starts making a conversation. She said she had seen me on campus and wanted to talk to me, but never quite had the courage. Okay. The kicker is it didn't take until me being home weeks later when I was like, "Oh, she was hitting on me?" Story 65. My coworker that worked in the cube directly across from me was a very attractive recent immigrant from SE Asia. She was kind of hard to read if she liked me or not. I chalked it up to cultural difference until she literally crawled on the floor under her desk to get a pen she dropped with no underwear on, and her skirt hiked up. I got the whole show that no one else could see. She made sure I was looking too. Sad to say that I passed on it because I was true to my GF that later cheated on me. Story 66. Went out with my friend and her FWB, and he brought a friend. We get there first and sit at the bar. They walk up, and first thing he says was, Give me your foot. I'm confused, but pull my leg up. I thought he was going to talk about my big feet, but he takes my shoe off and bends down and sucks on my toe. I was freaking out inside because we had been dancing. You! But he kept going, forever. I was weirded out that it was the first interaction, so nothing else happened. Story 67. Was doing a repair job on an outside door for an elderly woman, a friend of my mom's. Yes, Ellie. My son Carl will be glad to come over and fix your door. Ellie and neighbor started talking over the fence. Neighbor came over, complimented my work. I wasn't done. She asked if I do repairs around the house too for my wife or if I'm single. Married. Ah, too bad. A gal could use someone like you for a lot of things. I looked at her and she winked at me very naughty like the macho guy I am. I turned about 5 shades of red blushing and dropped my screwdriver. Where were you and your type when I was single? Story 68. The one that really stands out was a customer at my workplace loudly telling me, "Oh my god, you have such pretty eyes." I'm sure he was right, but I'm a straight dude. I'm also totally oblivious to flirting. My, now, wife had to ask me out 3 times before I finally figured it out. She would do it publicly, as we would often see each other with mutual friends. No one clued me in. Story 69. When I was outside sales, a prospective customer and I were standing outside her bakery talking, and she happened to mention that she loved to perform oral. So we went into the office and I got a nice and she became a customer. That was fun. Story 70. A few months after graduating high school, a very pretty girl that I had recently become friends with told me to take the day off work to hang out with her at her place alone. I went to work that day. Story 71. I was 18, working as a waiter in this huge Christmas banquet restaurant, handing out plates of food. I lean over a woman aged 50-ish, and she grabs my and exclaims quite loudly, "You should come home with me tonight. I have son your age, and in the morning you guys can hang out." I did neither go home with her nor hang out with her son. Story 72. Was pumping gas. A girl pulls up next to me, rolls her window down and says, "Hey, my friend thinks you're hot. Want to come back to our place?" I politely said, "No thank you." This was about 20 years ago. Story 73. Minding own business. Vibing on the dance floor at a bar on St. Patrick's Day. Drunk girl gets in my space grinding against me. "You're a good dancer." More grinding for a bit. "I want a your." Story 74. When I was about 21, I was out in the city and I bumped into a woman who was out on her hen night. She had never met me before, and she walked straight up to me and told me that she wants one last good before she gets married. I walked away in total disgust. That poor guy was in for a rough and short-lived marriage. Story 75. I was at a bar and there was this haggard beast of a woman. By profession, she was a cook on a crab boat and she looked every bit the part. She had been eyeballing me throughout the night and trying to strike up drunken conversation. In a last-ditch effort to swoon me, she ordered the biggest pickle the bar had, looked me dead in the eye, and proceeded to throat herself with said pickle. After enough thrust to garner the attention of half the county, she takes a shot and asks me, "Want to get out of here?" I was intrigued but absolutely terrified. I politely declined, and I've been trying to burn that image from my brain with drugs and booze ever since. Story 76. I was in a parking lot, minding my own business when this man a few cars away called out to me. He caught my attention, but I ignored him. When I was married, I wouldn't even make eye contact with strange men. I went to the ATM and he followed me. He was looking me up and down like a wolf. "Baby, you are just the right size," he said. He continued to hit on me, and using such funny language, I thawed. I laughed. He laughed.